Hi folks, Danny Richmond here. Just put together this series of videos to give you a step-by-step tutorial on how you can build a GPT-3 powered app in WordPress and without using a single line of code. Now I'm going to assume you're already pretty familiar with GPT-3. There's been a lot of chat around that, no pun intended. But this is the machine learning language model from OpenAI, which you can do all kinds of very clever things with. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to take you through building this app here. So if you've been following me on Twitter, you'll know that I'm currently involved with a project to build an app for people with dyslexia that helps them to generate emails and letters and things like that. So this is a kind of a similar app where you can put in a short message and then it will format that nicely into an email for you. However, the same steps and the same principles that we're going to go through in building this app can be so easily adapted to almost anything that you might want to do with this. So let me just show you what the app does first, and then I'm going to talk you through how we create it. So this is my WordPress website here, and I've got a form on this page. This form has been created using Gravity Forms, which is a plugin for WordPress, very popular form plugin for WordPress. And in order to follow this tutorial, you will need to have Gravity Forms installed on your website. I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. But let me just show you what this does. So you've got a form here. It asks you for the name of the sender. So I've got a default option there of just my name. You put in the name of the recipient. So I'm going to put in Sally. It asks you for your relationship to the recipient. So there's a few different options here, like client, colleague, friend, official body, relative, that kind of thing. I'm going to select client. And then it also asks you for the tone of the message that you want. So a few different options here, professional, friendly. So I'm going to put in here professional. And then you just type your message. So I'm going to say, hi, I will send you proposal on Monday. So just a short message there. Press the submit button. That is then sending that information over to OpenAI, to their API. And then the message comes back, as you can see here, and then it's generated a message here, Dear Sally. So it got that from the recipient's name. I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to let you know that I'll be sending you a proposal on Monday. I'm confident it will meet your expectations, and I look forward to discussing it further with you. If you need any additional information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Kind regards, Danny. And you can see I've put this into a kind of a text editor. So if you want to edit that, or you can just copy and paste it and send it on wherever you want. And then we got the form below, so you could just repeat that process and do it again with a different email. So that's what this app does. And these fields here, relationship to recipient and message tone, they influence how this message will be written. So this is what we're going to build. I'm going to show you and take you through this step by step. But as I say, you can pretty easily adapt this. So before we begin, there are a few things that you're going to need to get organized. The first thing, obviously, you're going to need to have is a WordPress website. And I mean a self-hosted WordPress website rather than on WordPress.com. So I'm going to assume you've already got that set up. The other thing you're going to need is the Gravity Forms plugin, which unfortunately is not a free plugin, but it's not too expensive. I believe it's a one-off cost currently of $59, which does represent really good value. This is an excellent plugin. There's a very good chance you've already got this installed on your WordPress site. And then the other thing you're going to need is this add-on for Gravity Forms, which is the OpenAI add-on for Gravity Forms. That is completely free. If you've already got Gravity Forms, they don't charge anything extra for this add-on. And then the last thing you're going to need is you will need to have an API key from OpenAI. If you've already registered an account with OpenAI, maybe you've used ChatGPT or one of their services there, you can just go in and grab that secret API key, because you're going to need to put that into the settings. Okay, so that's kind of all the prerequisites that you're going to need to make this work. So it's a WordPress website. You need the Gravity Forms plugin. You need the OpenAI Gravity Forms add-on, and I'll give you all the links for this in the post below. And you'll also need an API key from OpenAI. Okay, so once we've got that started, the next thing we're going to need to do is go over to Gravity Forms within your WordPress website, and we're going to go and create a new form. So I'm going to click here, Add New. I'm going to call this OpenAI V2. So I've already created one. So, okay. And then you get into the form builder here. So what we're going to need to do is drag in the fields that we're going to need for this form. So the first thing we're going to need is just drag over here a single line text field. We're going to put that in here, and we're going to give this a name of response received. Now I'll explain in a moment why we're creating this particular field, but this is kind of affects how the page is displayed. So we put here response received, and then we need to just adjust a couple of settings here. So we're going to go under advanced, and we're going to change the visibility to hidden. This is a hidden field. It's not going to be shown on the page. And where we've got default value here, we're going to set that to false, all in uppercase letters. I'll explain to you why we're doing that in a moment. Okay, so that's the first field we need on here. The next thing we need is a field that is going to take the response back from OpenAI. And so what we're going to add here is a paragraph field. We're going to give this a name, and we're going to call this AI response. You can give it whatever name you want, but that's what I've put in here. And then a couple of settings here. I think it's under advanced. Yeah, under advanced, you need to tick this box here, which is to use the rich text editor. So you remember when I showed you this earlier, we had that kind of nice text editor that allows us to edit the contents of that form. So we tick that. And then we need to tick this box here, allow the field to be populated dynamically. So you'll remember that it was this field here that gets the response back from OpenAI. And so we need to get the contents of this field will come back from that OpenAI. So we put in here, and then under parameter name, we're going to put in here response. Okay, that's going to be the name of the parameter that we put in here. And then the last setting on here is we're going to just add a little bit of conditional logic. So we're going to just tick this here and say enable conditional logic, and we're going to say show this field if all of the following match. And what we're going to do is select that field there, response received, and we're going to say is true. So essentially what that's going to do is the first time we use that form, this response field is not going to be shown on the form. We haven't got a response, so it's just not, it's going to be hidden from the viewer. When the response comes back, the value of this field is going to change to true, and that's when this field is going to be shown. Okay, so we just put that in there and close that box. Okay, now the rest of these fields are a bit more straightforward. The next field we're going to have is the sender's name. So we're going to put that in here. General sender's name. And if you want to, you can add like a little description under here just to kind of help the user explain what needs to go in there. And then we can just duplicate this. So I'm going to put recipient's name. Recipient's name, that's all good. And then another field here, we're going to put relationship relationship to recipient. There we go. Now, on the example, the demo that I showed you earlier, I actually made this like a drop-down list rather than a single line text. So that's probably better from a usability point of view, to give people a selection of different types of relationships rather than just them having it type it in manually. But it's just quicker for the purpose of this demonstration to make this a single line text field. But it's really easy to make that just a drop down list if you prefer. So that's relationship. Then the next one, we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to change this to message tone. And then the final one, this time we're going to go and add one. We're going to put in a paragraph field, and we're going to make this your message. And that is going to be a required field. So yeah, if they're not putting in any message, then it's going to be pretty hard to generate a response. So we're going to put that in here. And then just under the general settings here, I would suggest that you put in a limit on the maximum number of characters that they can put in here. Because with OpenAI, you are paying per token. I think a token is approximately about 7 words, something like that. So you don't want people copying in thousands of words into this box, which is then going to incur costs. So this is designed for short messages. So I'll put a limit of 500 characters on there to stop people entering in huge data into that field. Okay, I think that is all our form completed. Let me just double check I've got all this. Okay, so all I need to do now is just save this form. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go to the settings, the form settings, and assuming that you have installed the OpenAI add-on for Gravity Forms, you should see on the list there OpenAI as an option. So we're going to click on that, go straight to the settings of the form. When you get to here, it's going to say you don't have any feeds configured. Let's go create one. So we're going to click here, add new. And then you can give your field a name. I'm just going to leave it as the default here. It really doesn't matter what the name is. OpenAI endpoint. So you've got a few different options here. We're just going to accept the default option here, which is completions. But you've got a couple of other options here. Edits is if you've got something that you then need to edit. So say, for example, you want a summary or you want to translate something, you can use edits. And then moderations is another endpoint they have, which is if you want to check content for profanities or anything like that. But we're going to use completions here. Then you choose the model. Now, the latest and most powerful model that OpenAI offer is this one here, which is Text DaVinci 003. And that will certainly give you the best responses, but it's also the most expensive. These other models are significantly cheaper. I think, if I'm correct, I think Text Curie is around about 1% of the cost of Text DaVinci. But what I would suggest, and this is what I normally do, is I use Text DaVinci 03 as a kind of a default option. Get everything working with that, have a look at the quality of the responses. And then if I've got something that is going to be used in production with a large number of users and therefore has the potential to generate high costs, then I might then try testing it with a cheaper model and see what the quality of the responses is. You can just tick that box and try a different one. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our prompt in here. So this is kind of what we're sending over to OpenAI's API, which will get us back our response. So I'm going to paste this in here. So I'm going to put this in the post that goes along with this video, so you could just copy and paste it into here. But you can also feel free to adapt this in any way that you want. But this is the prompt here: generate an HTML formatted email to be sent to A. So what we're going to do here is we're going to insert the relationship, the client, the relationship to the recipient. So get rid of those little square brackets here, and then just click this little area here where it will show you the fields that are in your form. And what we need to select here is relationship to recipient. So generate an HTML formatted email to be sent to A, and that might be client or professional body or whatever the relationship was. Got an extra space in there. In a something tone. So this is where we put in the tone of the email. So we just go there, and then we're going to select that field here, which was message tone. So this is going to take whatever value has been entered into those fields and then insert that into the prompt here, so kind of like variables. So generate an HTML formatted email to be sent to a client in a professional tone, using, and then I've put here British English spelling. Now obviously if you are in the US or a different country, you might want to change that to whatever suits you. So I'll put that in brackets there, just so that you can change that to adapt it to what you need. The name of the sender is, and this is how it will know who to put it from. So we're going to put in their sender's name, and the name of the recipient is, and we'll get rid of that, and we're going to put in the recipient's name. The email topic is, and that's where we're going to put in the message that they're putting into the form here. So it's going to be there, your message. And then we put in message : and that's the bit where GPT-3 will then complete this prompt. So once this has all got values in it, what we're going to be sending over to OpenAI's API is generate an HTML formatted email to be sent to a client in a professional tone using British English spelling. The name of the sender is Danny. The name of the recipient is Sally. The email topic is, I will send you the proposal on Monday. And then we start off the message here where we're telling GPT-3 what we want back. Okay, so once we've done that, now a couple of other settings that we need here is this information here where it says map result to field. So what we're going to be doing is the response that we get back from the API, we want to map that back to the response field that we created in the form. So we're just going to drop that down, and we're going to select from this list here AI response. And then as you scroll down here, you'll see there's a whole series of settings here for the OpenAI API. Most of these you can kind of leave as they are. I'll just kind of quickly run through an explanation of some of these. So as the timeout setting, 15 seconds should be plenty. Maximum tokens. Now, you might want to adjust this. If you don't want it generating very long responses, you can bring that down. So this is the number of tokens it would generate. And I think off the top of my head, I think a token is around about, I think it's around about seven characters, I think, per token. So now the more tokens you allow it to generate, the longer the responses are likely to be. Not necessarily, because this is the maximum, doesn't mean it's definitely going to be 500 tokens, but it gives it the freedom to create longer responses, but it also means that you're incurring more cost. So for the purpose of this demo, I would just leave that as the default 500 tokens, but if you find you're getting overlong messages or too short, then you can adjust that. Temperature. This is another OpenAI setting that controls the sort of the randomness of the response. So this works on a scale from 0 to 1. 1 is the maximum. So if you leave this at 1, it allows GPT-3 to be as creative as it likes. So it may start kind of straying off the path and giving you a response that doesn't really kind of stick to the subject. I mean, the way that GPT-3 works is essentially what it's trying to do is give you the most common sequence of words to generate. If you expand that out and you set it as a temperature of 1, it will start to use less common responses. So I find as a kind of a good happy measure is to set that to 0.7 is a fairly good middle ground, which gives good responses. But again, if you find that the type of responses you're getting are a little bit weird or random, or just kind of giving you odd information, then you can bring that temperature right down. And if you bring it all the way down to 0, it's just going to be very, very sort of factual and non-creative. Top P and frequency penalty, I would just, and the same with presence penalty, I would just kind of leave these alone. Essentially what these do is control the degree to which GPT-3 will repeat itself. But in this particular example, those are not things that you really need to worry about too much. If you want to know more on these, obviously there's more guidance here, but there's also a link on there where you can go and read on the OpenAI website exactly what those different parameters do. But my suggestion, just for the purpose of this demonstration, is to leave these settings as default 15 seconds timeout setting, maximum tokens 500, temperature 0.7, top P, just leave it at the default, which is 1, and these two blank here. Click Save Settings, and that's done. Okay, I think I'm going to end this video here, and in the next video, I'm then going to show you how we create the page, the WordPress page, where the form is going to be shown to people and where the response is going to come in. All right, see you in the next video. Cheers.